Social basics. So obviously social media is a way to communicate and interact online. It's very different than a lot of the communications in terms of how you email. Social media needs its whole own way of dealing, and it has its own kind of language and the things that you do on social or don't do on social, and so we're going to go through a lot of that. How do we actually use social to build your music career and attract attention? And I'm sure you all hear about YouTube artists and people who have gone viral on social. Those things happen, not a lot, they're very rare, but they happen when you're engaged in these conversations and you're building your social. So 2.3 billion of the world's overall population is on social media. In the workbook you're going to see some graphs about why people use social, how they use it. I won't bore you with that right now. When we look at an artist, we talk about kind of the golden three social platforms. So Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and then I would say YouTube is a very close and important one as well. Okay, so Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. However, depending on what your genre might be, you might very well need to have a close eye on SoundCloud, Bandcamp, Spotify, Pinterest, Last.fm, these various platforms. I would argue that you should always, as an artist, be on as many platforms as possible. However, it's not humanly possible to keep up with all those platforms, so to decide which ones are going to be like your focus platforms versus your secondary platforms. And the secondary platforms can be set up more statically. So your focus three platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or they might be different depending on your genre, and then your secondary platforms. And I would say your three are ones that you're generating content for regularly, you're really engaged, you're really active on. And then the secondary ones you've kind of set up, whether that is your Bandcamp that you have set up and it's static and it points people towards your more focused platforms. Does that make sense? Cool. Managing your platform. So there's a blog post that I wrote a while ago that I'll send out that is about how to manage your social platforms when you're super swamped. I don't think any of us are able to manage our social platforms full time. It's just way too much work, and there are social media people who do that, who are like social tastemakers, and I don't know how they do it because it is a lot of work. So the key is finding tips and tricks on how to keep a really active social media, but if you have a job and you have to be gigging and you're recording, it not taking up too much of your time. So one of the things that we suggest is creating a social calendar, similar to this on a spreadsheet, and I'm going to send you a template. And you've got your various platforms at the top, you've got your days of the week on the side, and you've got copy and the image links. And you draft this content. And so I've suggested people maybe you take an hour every Sunday, 2 hours, and you draft out your content for the week. And this can be stuff like, posting articles from other people, engaging in certain conversations, asking questions to your fan base, a healthy dose of course, promoting your new music, your video, your content, and weighing that. I like the 80-20 rule where 20% is about you, 80% about the community and what's going on, and planning it out in advance. And then you can use tools like Hootsuite or Buffer, and there's other ones out there too, that you can pre-schedule your posts. That will take a lot of time and energy. And I call this the base content because obviously there's also interaction and maintenance of the account. So every day you wake up, you might want to retweet some people, you might want to tag someone, there might be something going on in the world, you might want to send your condolences, you might want to be more reactive to what's actually going on. But this is your base content, so there's nothing going on that you want to comment on right now. You've got this steady flow of content and it's going to automatically post out from your accounts and engage your fans. You're going to need to check, did someone comment on it and ask a question? Did someone say, hey, I love this track, thanks so much? You might want to say, thanks man, hope to see you at the next show, whatever you might want to say. Those things have to happen on the fly, but at least you can kind of pre-schedule and pre-plan with these things. And Hootsuite, I believe there's a free trial, but then it's only about $5 a month or something like that. So these tools save you a lot of time, and they're not super expensive. So I think that they really help to manage the baseline of content. You've got date, content, and then your platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram on the top, and then on the side you've got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all the days of the week. And then you've got a section for copy, so that's like the written portion, and the link. So if you're posting about Canada Day, because it's Canada Day, hey Canadian fans, happy Canada Day, and then your image link might be a picture of a Canadian beaver jumping in the air, and you link it there so that you can grab it later, and or that you pre-post it, and it automatically posts it, and you put it, so you take it from the social calendar into the apps that I mentioned. You have to do that manually. It's a bit annoying, but generally it will save you time. The importance of engagement. So I'm going to jump right to engagement. I think first, actually, before that, we'll talk a little bit about content. So having a steady flow of content and making sure that it ties into your brand voice, visual, and core values, like we talked about, is really crucial. And I like to create a cheat sheet for myself that I keep on my desktop of my computer, and it is blogs, other people's social media that I find are really in line with my brand, so that I can quickly, oh, what are they up to? Did someone write a new blog? I'm going to mention it on my Twitter. I'm going to retweet this person. And you have this kind of go-to list of people that you're always adding to that you may want to engage with and are in line with your brand. So then we'll talk about engagement. Something that Chris did an awesome job about talking about was how much of a revenue stream fan engagement truly can be. And something that we work with a lot of artists on is sitting down with them. And so we sat down with artists who have 200 followers and who have 500,000 followers, and assessing how engaged are your fans. So sometimes it's only 1 or 2% of fans are actually like super fans, posting, commenting, liking, really stoked on the new record, sharing it with all their friends and fans on their platforms. But usually fans are kind of like, oh, I heard a song, I'm gonna like you on Facebook, and then I might forget about you. And we call those more passive fans. So you've got your super fans and you've got your passive fans. And something that you guys have a really amazing opportunity, because the internet is accessible, and you might not have the music fans that you need in this community, but the internet allows you to find them around the world, wherever they may be. And so learning how to monetize and really build strong relationships with those fans will 100% make you money if you do it well and you do it right. And so part of that is engagement and ongoing conversations with these fans, and then giving them something that they can't have for free. So whether that's music or a sneak peek or getting to see a video, that maybe would be a free perk. Well, giving them free perks, but then you start to monetize the perks, or you start to give them a limited edition t-shirt or a new track that they can pre-order, or a new song or record or vinyl or whatever it might be. So what I recommend to people is to segregate the super fans from the passive fans, and then create a strategy for bringing the passive fans over to the super fan side. So the way to do that would be either to have a newsletter or an app, or I would say a newsletter is probably the easiest way to manage. And so you want to get these super fans to add their newsletter. And so usually you can use a platform like MailChimp or Constant Contact. MailChimp is the one that I use, and it has a page that you can embed right into your Facebook, so that people can put in their email address to join your mailing list. And you can even say, join the mailing list, I'm going to send you a free track. So it's incentivizing that. So they sign up with their their email, and now you've got this mailing list growing of these super fans. You can also manually ask people like, hey man, really loving your support. Can I add you to my mailing list and send me your email? And you can do it one by one fan at a time. And so now you have these super fans, and whether you've got 20 super fans or 200 or 5,000, there is money to be made there, and you can talk to these people in a different tone and in a different way than you can your passive fans. So if we focus in on these super fans for a second, they know your band for sure. They understand some of the background. They've probably watched your videos, and they are aware of all your content. So they're hungry for new content. They also probably have fan bases and are friends with people very similar to themselves who would also be fans of your band. So how do we use those super fans, turn them into your personal promotional network online for free? It doesn't have to cost money. So I would recommend doing a monthly newsletter for them, so that you're engaged engaging with them, I would mention that every time there's a newsletter, you're giving them some perks, some inside scoop, pictures from the studio, sneak peek of a new track, sneak peek of a new video, something like that. And then you monetize. So then you say, because you guys are my best fans and I love you so much, I'm just going to do 10 limited edition t-shirts. They're only available for the next 5 days. You can order them online. And two things that drive sales with superfans is limited quantity and limited time to get something. So if you want to figure out how to monetize those fans quickly, you give them a time limit and a quantity limit. And it works very well. So even if that's 10 sales that you didn't have, that could be $100 in the bank for your next recording. And so that is real direct to fan. There's also platforms like Pledge Music, Kickstarter, Indiegogo that help to manage that relationship. Pledge Music I personally favor because it's specifically for artists, and it allows you to put in your music and upload the videos, and it helps manage the back end so it's not so manual, which is really helpful. And then you can monetize that relationship a lot easier. And then let's go back to the passive fans who are chilling over here, just kind of following. You don't want to bombard them. Oh, I'm selling, I have 10 limited edition this, I've got this. You'll piss them off, they'll run away because they're kind of just like feeling it out right now. It's a new relationship. You don't want to make them commit too heavy yet. So those fans, it's more about having a conversation where, like I mentioned, you're talking about what's going on in the community, you're talking about what's relevant to them, maybe you're asking questions, what's your favorite thing to do on a Saturday, like have a great Saturday, and you're starting the conversation. So, and then you're, that 20% where you're weeding in your content and you're showing the video, and then you're also able to have your super fans when they tweet like, oh, just got my sweet limited edition hat in the mail. You can retweet that, and then the other passive fans are like, hey, I didn't know about that hat. What the hell? And they're like, and then the other fans or you will say, hey, you can join my mailing list. We do these monthly limited edition things and different perks from joining the mailing list. And so that's how you are literally bringing over the passive fans, turning them into super fans, keeping them engaged. That's just one tactic that I have seen has worked really well across a lot of different types of genres, a lot of different types of bands, to create money where there wasn't money before. But there's other things you can do that would be more, and you know best what your fans would be into and what you have at your disposal to turn into a fun fan engagement thing. So another point that's here is just being sure to like and comment on the social content, making sure that you're actually aware of what your fans do. You know how I talked about the Matches at the beginning, and they were my favorite pop punk band who wrote the song that then informed the name for my company. They were the best at building fans, and to this day they just did reunion shows. They remember my name, they remember where I live, they remember my background, and that as a fan, and they do maybe 1,500 person venues, and that's a lot of fans to remember. And maybe 20% I would say are like super fans, but it makes the biggest difference in a fan's world, and they don't care how big you are or if you're actually really just like them and have a job, and they don't even know, they don't even care. It's more about how you take care of them and honor that relationship that speaks volumes. And then also seeking out opportunities for engagement that are relevant. So you can search hashtags, and if you're playing a festival, you might want to search the hashtag of that festival and engage with people who are already talking about it. So you're not just floating around in the world of social media being like, how do I connect? How do I find some people? You're actually, finding these certain hashtags and things that very much connect with what you're talking about already. If you know that a lot of your fans wear New Era hats, then search who's talking about that. If they wear Converse All-Stars, search who's talking about Converse All-Stars. Stuff like that. Like, you can search people, you can really find these paths on social media that we didn't have access to before that now are like laid out in front of us. So it's about waltzing down that path. Does that make sense? Cool. And then here at the bottom, I just mentioned direct to fan, like Pledge Music, and like newsletters like MailChimp. I cannot explained to you enough how important it is to build your email newsletter. Do you guys have like an email news list already? It is so important because I'll tell you, when Facebook came out, we were like, oh, amazing, everyone go like us on Facebook. And for a lot of our clients and a lot of bands, we've built up huge followings on Facebook. And then Facebook started to monetize and say, oh, you want to post to all of your fans that you drove into Facebook? Now you got to pay and you got to boost that post to be able to speak to them. And so Facebook really has the control. But when you have their email addresses, you have the control. You can speak to them whenever you want to speak to them. They've invited you into their inbox, and it's a little bit more permanent. It's a little bit more meaningful than a social media post. And you own that data. And that data is very valuable. And when you need those people, they will be there for you. So say you have an opening slot for a show with a promoter that you really want to impress, and they're the one who books all the big acts in towns, and if they see a great set and that you're able to draw some people out, they'll help you develop, they'll put you on another show. And so if you have a newsletter that you've segmented people based on where they're located, based on their age, based on their gender, whatever certain things will make sense for your content, you can then target, okay, I've got X number of fans in that market. I'm going to tell them this is a really important one for me, guys. Please come out. Everyone gets a free CD. Everyone gets a free t-shirt, whatever it might be. They will be there for you in the moments that you need it most to help you look good. And that is really powerful. And any bookers, promoters, all they care about is how many people you can bring out. And how you manage your fan base will dictate that. Make sense? Cool. Okay, social media do's and don'ts. We're just going to go through a few of them, and maybe as we go through, you might want to jot down ones that you aren't doing that you think you should be doing, or just things that pertain to your particular situation. So create a Facebook page, Twitter, and Instagram account for your band and artist. Now, something to note is it's awesome to have all of the handles match so that people can find you consistently across all the platforms and they're matched. Sometimes it's not possible, and that's really frustrating. So that's, it is what it is. But try to keep it as consistent as possible. Ensure that your profile header images are current, high quality, and consistent. So that's about your brand, and that's making sure that if people are recognized, especially when you're a new artist or a new act that you're promoting, you want it to match. You want people to say that face is the same as that face, and across all the platforms. When you're a stranger to someone, they can't necessarily recognize different angles of you or different, or if your face is blurry or hair's like covering your face. You want to meet someone and make a presence, and that they're going to see you multiple times, and it's going to really drill into their mind. Update your bio and about section and include links to your band artist website and other social media accounts. So that's what I was talking about, the focus accounts and the secondary accounts. A strong bio is so important, and we're going to talk more about that in a whole section about bios and stuff. But consistency, again, people need the same messaging across all the platforms for them to be able to latch on to something. It takes people about 8 to 12 times to actually remember something when it comes to when they're surfing around online. So you have to really drill it in. Identify your target audience and create content and posts that appeal to them. We talked about that. Know that posts that include a photo generally perform better. So visuals perform a lot better on social media. And again, you want those visuals to be consistent with your brand. So something that might be cool is to think about, are you always going to have the same filter on Instagram that might be your look, your vibe, and that is something that you use in all situations? Or maybe you're going to put a little border on everything so it creates a theme throughout your platforms that becomes distinct to you and that your fans can know is how you do things. Know that posts with 150 characters or less perform better. So Facebook doesn't have a character limit. Obviously, writing a letter or rant, that needs to be long, but generally you can keep it short and sweet and they will perform better. And Twitter actually just announced that they're going to be lifting their 140 character limit. So that will be a little bit crazy. So we'll see how that goes. But Instagram, you can do longer posts as well, but but we recommend that you keep it a little shorter and sweet, especially if you're trying to point them elsewhere, like to a link to listen to music. More do's. Do create a cheat sheet of key platforms you can pull links from regularly. So I mentioned this. So you do not have to be the one generating from scratch every bit of content on your platforms. You will go crazy. It's way too much work. But you can pull from people who are like-minded, or blogs, books that you've read, people that you want to shout out, videos that you saw that you liked, that you can use and post. So like I mentioned, a cheat sheet of people that are always going to be generating new content on their end that you guys can swap back and forth. Also worth mentioning that if they have a lot of followers and you post about them and then they retweet, that's awesome and more exposure for you. Use hashtags when applicable. 1 or 2 per post should suffice. I'm sure you see people who go overboard with the hashtags, and it can just be a little too much. Hashtags are great though, because it makes your link more easy to, or your post easier to find. People will be directed over to what you're doing. So do use them, but not excessively, because then your core fans will lose interest. Do use tools like Bitly and Owly to shorten links that go into posts, especially useful when there's a character limit like Twitter. So those are just websites you can go to, and say you have a long link for your YouTube video, you throw it in and it shortens it for you, and then you put it in your post. And the reason for that is you don't want to waste all those characters, but also it just looks nicer, it's cleaner. And like I said, everything is marketing, and the feel, the way, your presentation, how professional you are on social media speaks volumes to how people see how you're doing and where you're at in the world. Do establish a standard post frequency and stick to it. For example, once a day on Twitter, once a week on Instagram, twice a week on Facebook. Those are just some random suggestions. You know what's best for your fan base, but we have noticed just through our kind of experience of doing it a bunch of different ways that when it's consistent, people come to expect from you a certain flow of content. And it's almost like a rhythm that you get into with your followers, where it's like, okay, once a day around like 10 a.m., we're always going to post something on our Instagram, so you know it's there, and you check it, and it becomes a part of your kind of flow of your day. So that I really recommend. But as well, you can test it out. You can do different things to figure out what makes sense for your followers. Do know the best time to post on Facebook is between 1 and 3 p.m. On Twitter, it's between 12 noon and 3 p.m. And on Instagram, it's any time that is not 3 to 4 p.m. So these are generalized information that you can find online. If you were to sign up with different platforms like Cloud or Buffer, they tell you what your follower base is doing and what time is best. And I cannot tell you what a huge difference it makes for getting interaction on your post. Also, I'll tack on to this point that you should also be aware of holidays and larger things going on that are relevant. And then also when there's kind of tragedies in the world and you have pre-scheduled content, it might look really bad if, you know, there's a shooting and all of a sudden you're posting like happy blah blah blah, whatever. And so you have to be ready to jump and adapt on the fly and be really reactive to what's going on in the world. But engagement and getting the most likes and retweets really has a lot to do with timing and all the other points, but timing is a huge component. And do direct superfans towards your mailing list in order to engage with them at a higher frequency. So we talked about that excessively because I think it is really helpful for making money. Any questions or additional thoughts about social media do's? Cool. Social media don'ts. I mean, there's a lot of them, but I distilled them down to things that I would say. Don't go overboard with hashtags, tagging, and it says posts shouldn't look like this. Don't forget to be human. Nobody wants to engage with just, a really automated voice. Fans can tell when it's not the artist, when it's not a genuine conversation that they're having with someone and it's a little too commercialized. So I would say, try to put a lot of yourself into it and don't be afraid to be quirky and weird and just honest. Don't be afraid to brand your posts so that they become identifiable. So we talked about this, using a standard filter, using a standard caption format, so people get to know. If you come across where you've got all these different formats of posts and different filters, it kind of just sets this inconsistency of like not just not having cohesion across your platforms. So, and don't only post about yourself. I've said this like 20 times. You get it. And don't repeatedly post to your fans or direct message just comes across as spammy. So you've probably seen that before where someone's like, at blah, 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 come to my show on Friday, at blah, 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 come to my show on Friday. And it's like copy, paste, and it really doesn't work. It gets annoying. There's also apps you can pay for that will do that for you, and that also just looks crappy. So it's really about being genuine with your fans and being open to actually understand like what the what the conversation is, rather than just pro forma stuff. So some example platforms that we can talk about and look at, and then I want to do some kind of audits of anyone who would be brave enough to let us look at their social media together. So a good example is Heim. I don't know if you guys like them. They do a really cute job on their social media, and their voice is fun, summery, easygoing, and so they have the hashtag Heim Time, and they'll do certain times where they come on and do like live tweeting with their fans and answer all the questions that they can. So it's like, we want to answer your questions on Heim Time. Tweet us a question, where you're from, and we will answer it on air. Go, go, go. So they have created these little inner community hashtags that work really well. Other strong platforms I mentioned down here, there's a bunch. What are some of the ones or people that you follow that you think are awesome, and maybe we can pull them up as well and just kind of check them out?